Hi.
Hi, we good. We good.
Yay.
I'm here.
I've never done an in-person podcast, I don't think.
You've never done an in-person
What
podcast?
else?
Really? Well, mine, because I don't have the camera equipment, I only have one camera, it's a little weird. Especially when I put the chair, it's like literally us looking at the camera, because then the guest doesn't know if they're supposed to look at the camera, or if they're supposed to...
What am I supposed to do?
Well,
What do you prefer?
this is great for Instagram clips, because it's like you're looking at the audience, but for conversation, it's generally better to look at each other. It doesn't really matter. We'll just do whatever feels right.
Okay.
But that is something I need to address, and getting a second camera is expensive. You also kind of have to get the same camera because it's like you can't film two different cameras. And it's just
What
weird.
camera is that?
The Sony ZV-E10. It's like the standard vlogging Sony camera. It's good. I like it a lot. Hello, and welcome back to the show, Respectfully Inspired. Today, I'm here with Katie. How do I say your last name? Shu.
Tennis shoe.
It's spelled XU, but it's Katie Shu. And she is an expert on personal branding. Like, she has a whole, I guess you have a whole brand about personal branding, but she does consulting for other people. She sells personal branding stuff. She has a personal branding account. She goes on other podcasts. I was shocked when I was doing my research about how many other places you've talked about personal branding. So I really do think you are an authority figure in the space, which is really cool because I've been so interested in this idea of personal branding. Before we jump into... Why do I have gum in my mouth? Sorry, audience. It's not a good look. Also, I don't cut anything out of the podcast. I will if you're like, if you say something and you're like, I need that cut out, then I will. But I never cut anything out.
Oh, you don't edit?
Nope. Which, I mean, we'll talk about that too. But I like to start off every episode with my why behind the show, which is that I want to inspire you to invest in soul wealth. So most people measure success by money, possessions, achievements, or status. And the goal of my show is to change the way you measure success to relationships and memories.
I love that.
Yeah. So I feel like I've already been ranting so hard, but I do need to tell you a story about why I've been on this personal branding journey, which is I followed this guy, Arlin, on Instagram. He's a little bit of a red pill guy, kind of make Alex Hormozy, make money a little bit, but he's very, very interesting. And his main platform is Instagram, and he has 50,000 followers on Instagram, which is not that crazy. He has YouTube, but doesn't really use it. It's pretty much just Instagram. And he sells a course on how to, it's called Tribe Accelerator. He sells a course on how to improve your social life and make money. So pretty standard red pill course. But his is a high ticket offering. So he sells it for $5,000. And he sells it primarily through his 50,000 Instagram followers. And he makes 20 to 30K a month. And it blows my mind. And so I'm watching him do this over and over and over again. And I have a friend who works for him, and I'm just watching him do it over and over again. And so essentially on his feed, he has stuff hanging out with other people like Iman Gadzhi, and he's on private jets and all this luxurious content on his feed. And then on his story, all he talks about is he goes, I'm Olivia Rodrigo's biggest fan. All you have to do is wake up and be sexy. He goes, do you want to know how to make money? Just look in the mirror, be sexy, be the Olivia Rodrigo's #1 fan. I'm a travel hoe. That's what he just says over and over again. And it creates this mystery gap in the audience where people are like, okay, I see on your feed that you're with people I look up to, you're in private jets, you're doing these crazy things, but then on your story, you're talking about being sexy and a travel hoe, and that being Olivia Rodrigo's biggest fan makes you money. And he just sells this. And it's been the most interesting case study to look at. And so first I'll get your opinion on that, and then I'll elaborate.
No, I mean, that's interesting, that you notice the discrepancy between what he's posting. And I don't know, I'd want to see his account.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, but I wonder if he like strategically does all the Olivia Rodrigo stuff.
I think it is strategic. And so I know that was kind of a bad question for you because it's like you haven't seen it. But so let me further on this point. So I have a podcast mentor, Danny Miranda. He's really killing it. He's just interviewed Mike Posner. He's going to do Mark Manson soon. He's really like kind of hitting his stride with podcasting. And he was gassing up Twitter to me. He's like, Twitter is the best podcasting platform. He's like, nothing is as good as Twitter. It's where I get the most guests, where I do the best research. So I didn't like ever really use Twitter. So I'm like, how do I start? Because on Instagram, I have a basis. Like we grew up with Instagram. So I go, how do I start on Twitter? I go, I guess I'll just follow everyone I've done a podcast with. So I've done 60 podcasts. So I go and look for those people on Twitter and I go through all 60 of my guests and only 4 of them have Twitter. And then I realized something. This is where my personal branding like breakaway happened. Is that I was like, whenever my mom talks to me about her friends, she talks about Facebook. Whenever Danny talks to me about his podcasting, he's 27, he talks to me about Twitter. And then I was like, our holy grail platform. And I guess you could make an argument for TikTok, but in my opinion, it's Instagram. If you like a girl, what are you going to do? You're going to go vet their Instagram. If you have a business partner, what are you going to do? You're going to vet their Instagram. A friend, you're going to vet their Instagram. And then so I had that breakthrough separately, all while I was looking at Arlin's account. And I was like, it just started to hit me that like, Instagram is our generations, our ages, like it's our resume, it's our holy grail platform. And so if you carry like a certain authority on that platform, it's so like powerful. And that's why I'm just like, how I don't care about followers. I don't care like about like some content strategy. I'm like, how do I make like the people who follow me on Instagram care?
And like, even like, there's like, it's weird because like with the whole follower thing, right? You can have like 10,000 followers or you can have 100,000, but like that doesn't dictate how many of them care, you know? Like it's like this different memorability towards it. That's like super interesting of a question. And I totally agree. Like I feel like Instagram is like such a resume almost, for people our age at least. Like, I also just think because you can look people up so effortlessly, like you don't have to know their handle or anything. And you could probably find them based on the fact that you probably have mutuals and you can see who your mutuals are. Like it kind of does connect people in a different way that I really like. So I agree with you about that. But
with Instagram, I know you talk a lot about, like as I was looking through your stuff, you talk a lot about that idea of like you can gain a following and have people who don't care about you. And then you also talk about like your niche becoming you. How, just for like people listening and for myself, what is the way to make yourself the niche or to make your followers care about you?
I think those are 2 different questions. I'll start with the niche, like becoming the niche. The way I think about it is like, first of all, it's all kind of this like own internal mindset. In a way, more so than it is like an external strategy. It's this internal mindset of like realizing like the voice that you hold, like for you, even with Respectfully Inspired and the mission that you have to, and I love that you start the podcast with that, like the mission that you have to like teach people that there's other ways to measure success. That is like something that you care so deeply about, that can become almost part of your niche, more so than a specific traditional niche category of like sports or beauty or like whatever it is. It's really like thinking about yourself as the center of the brand and all of your interests and beliefs. So like things that you like, things you do for fun or like people you hang out with, whatever, all of those being things that you share as tools to attract the right audience towards you, instead of like the box that you put yourself in to attract a certain audience just to attract an audience. That makes sense. Like some people will niche down to sports to get a sports audience. That's great for them if that's their like intention. But if you are like interested in a specific team or something, and that's just what you share about sports, but you don't make your entire personality about sports, you'll attract people that are also fans of that account or not account, team. And like that will bring their eyes to your account, and they are more likely to resonate with you based on your shared interest in said sports team.
Yeah. You know, you also talk about like why it can be bad to go viral. Actually, just answer that question and then we'll go.
Yeah, I mean, in multiple ways, like it depends. Like sometimes the video that goes viral, like you don't want it to go viral. You don't want to be known for that thing. But also I feel like it like sometimes creates like a fear. Like, I don't know, like have you gone viral and like gotten stressed about it or something?
Well, something that happened to me was like when TikTok was really popular, I got on TikTok. At the time, I wasn't doing short form. So I made vlogs on YouTube, and I did a one-off video on YouTube where I said like trying stand-up comedy. And so I went and I tried stand-up comedy, and for a vlog, it was fine. It was just one of many number of things I did. But then I put the clip on TikTok and of doing stand-up comedy, and it like went viral. I don't know, like 100K views. And then nothing I ever posted on that account ever did good again. And it could just be an excuse because I don't want to be like the person who's like, oh, I got shadow banned or whatever. But all I kept thinking was like, it put me in the stand-up comedy, and I don't do that. So I literally will never have content for this ever again. So I'm like, I kind of learned that, but I actually thought of a really interesting analogy, which is that I don't know if you were ever younger, if you ever liked a boy or I remember like when I was less confident, I liked a girl, and I would try to be what I think they would like. So it's like, oh my gosh, I like this girl so much, and she's into XYZ, and I'm like, okay, well now I'm going to be into XYZ. Or every time I'm with her, I'm going to try to like be this version of myself so that she'll like me. And as I got older, I was like, that is so bad because, well, one, it almost never works. But two, if it does work, then you're just like convincing a girl or a partner to fall in love with someone who's not you. So it's like now you're in a relationship, but you can't be yourself. It's like in your traps. And I was like, that's so similar to what you're saying with content, which is that if you're making content that you think your audience will like, first of all, that's not a good strategy. But even if it works, like when people recreate Mr. Beast videos and they're like, I gave my friends $500 to buy out each vending machine, but you know they're not passionate about that, but they do it because they think it works. It's like, even if it does work, it's almost like the worst case scenario because now you're entrapped to making content that it's like, I go back to like, so many people join the content world because they don't want a 9-to-5. And then if you entrap yourself into a type of content you don't like, they don't realize that like content creating can be much harder than a 9-to-5. And if you're doing it for something you don't like, then it's like, it's worse, in my opinion. Sorry, I just dropped so much on you, but that analogy is like what I've been
Wait, that metaphor was really good about like kind of pretending to be someone that you're not. And like, it's like you could like starting right off the bat, even with like a fresh new account, like actually I get asked a lot by people like even just like friends or who want to get like on social media or people online will ask too, but like they'll ask me like if they think they should make a new account or something for like a new TikTok account or a new Instagram account for like a specific kind of content or something. And my answer is always yes, not because of like some algorithmic whatever trick or anything, but fully for their own like mental like relationship with their social media account. If you're like questioning your content because it's like, ugh, it's not stand-up comedy, no one's gonna care anymore, like I'm shadow banned or like whatever, or you're even like, for some people, like self-conscious about who's following you, like all your friends know about your account and stuff, like then at the end of the, like just make a new one and start fresh and like start with a base like set for yourself of I'm gonna share what I actually like care to share about myself and about like whatever I want to talk about.
Well, you know what's interesting that you say is, and it's actually a similar thing that I've been trying to do with the podcast, is you say, try to make a count that, correct me on the way you say, but you say try to make content that works with the least amount of decorating. So it's like, if you're taking advice from someone like Mr. Beast or whatever, they're going to be like, remove every dead second of content, add jumpy subtasks, play to people's ADHD. And I've always felt, or actually, I don't want to say I've always felt, but recently I've felt that it's like, you can trick people into watching your content.
Yeah.
But do those people really care about you? And something I really like that you do is that so many people, when they give social media advice, they talk about the platform, the rules, the tricks, but you talk so much about like the mentality behind it. Like how am I the content rather than like, how can I trick people? So yeah, I don't know what the question is here, but I guess I'm just could you touch more on like non-decorated content?
Yeah, totally. I think it's like, I like the distinction that you just made, because like I do so strongly believe, and maybe this is just because a lot of what I share online, it's not strategically, like it's really just the stuff that's on my mind as I'm learning to create stuff as well, right? It's like realizing like the mentalities that I've been like putting forth or needing to get rid of and stuff like that. But I really do think it starts so much with the person themselves and like what they want to share and how they want to share it and their taste. Like when it comes to the decoration, that's a taste thing. Like some people are great at storytelling in a decorated way and like create, like their intention is to make like this dramatic reality TV show in a way where like something like plot twists and everything like that, and they want to make an entertaining video. That's fine for them. They like for someone like that though, like I would say like a higher number is needed to like a higher follower count is kind of needed to like kind of create like a more influential base, because it's easier to get reach that way if you're like, am I making sense? Like,
is what you're saying
like their influence is a bit,
I think because you're playing to people's ADHD, you're going to get more followers who are just following for the content for you.
Exactly.
It's like, if I get a follower and someone's sitting through an hour-long podcast where I make no cuts than anything, the value of my follower is probably more valuable than if I just had some super highly edited podcast reel that's... and that's why I've chosen not to, like, if you look at my reels, I've chosen not to go with the editor route. Like a lot of people are paying editors in, I don't know, the Philippines or Indonesia to like make these. And I'm like, I know those get more followers, but do those followers care about what I'm doing?
Right.
But I don't know if it's right, because maybe having like more reach and then just like giving the people with more reach an opportunity to become like fans of the slow content, maybe that would be better. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's why like it all depends on like a person's like I don't know what they're trying to get out of their content, you know?
Yeah.
Like in terms of the non-decoration, like the way I view my own content in a way is like I pretty much, honestly, I'm getting, like I was just talking to Serafine about this, I'm getting like to a point where I do want to be a bit more strategic with the like stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the way I've done it thus far is like I have to be really compelled to speak on whatever I'm talking about, and I just like capture that energy. So like I don't really edit anything. I record fully in TikTok's app, and then I like will just like chop up some silences, add captions through TikTok, and then add maybe a title. Like I can like start and finish a video in like 15 minutes or something and just post it. That part isn't the creation part to me. The creation part for my videos is way more ruminating on what I'm going to talk about, getting in that like specific energy I need to be in to like deliver it in a way. So like, I don't know, it's like to each their own. Like some people are great at like writing a meticulous script, like, and then performing it. I'm not. I would much rather like speak candidly, and that attracts a different kind of audience and attracts like maybe people that are more interested in hearing me talk specifically as opposed to like hearing me on a voiceover or something, if that makes sense. But like, yeah, you kind of like attract whatever you're putting out. So
no, I mean, it definitely makes sense. There's two thoughts that come to mind. One is that Max Reisinger is one of the founders of Creator Camp. He talks about this idea of echolocation, which is like submarines. So they go through the water and they shoot out sound waves, and then based on how the sound waves come back, I don't know, it tells them something about the map of the water. But it's like, he says you do a similar thing when you create content, is like you're shooting out what you believe in and what you care about, and then you attract an audience that believes and cares about those same things, which is interesting. The other thing that comes to mind is being on YouTube for so many years, and like everyone says like, do your passion, like pursue your dreams. You come to like create a stigma of what that means in your head. So like I've identified as a YouTuber for so long that I'm like, oh, I must be passionate about filmmaking. I must be passionate about editing and making a great product. And I was doing vlogs for 4 years, trying to improve the editing, improve the product, but realizing that like what I was really passionate about was one conversation, talking to my camera and like almost using it as a digital diary, but it really had nothing to do with the like editing or filmmaking part of it. But I felt the need that I needed to identify, like I was like, should I go to film school? Bro, I don't care about, but I felt like I should care about that. I should be this film guy, this cinematic guy. Like all the time, even when I film podcasts, people would be like, you run your camera in automatic? And I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about camera settings. I don't know anything about camera settings. I don't know anything about mics. I don't know I love conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's like something I'm coming to terms with, is that I can be passionate about just this. And it's like, when you look at those examples like Mr. Beast versus Emma Chamberlain, I don't think Emma Chamberlain's that passionate about film either. I don't think he's that passionate about like choppy, crazy edits. And I think that Mr. Beast works because he is passionate about that.
He's passionate about almost like the business aspect of it too, like maximizing everything.
Yeah, which is just like, that's been like a very important realization.
Yeah.
But I do love that. I just think that you're playing such an important role, because it's like that other type of advice is so easy to come across. I feel like I see it everywhere of like, all right, here's how you improve the thumbnail. Here's how you improve the title. Here's how you improve the like editing and this and this and this and this. And I finally like, when I was looking through your stuff, I was like, dude, this is what I'm talking about. It's like you're just improving yourself, and then whatever comes out online, just,
and how you should like improve the machine behind all of it, you know, like you're first of all, pick the right content for you. Like you realizing that all you care about truly is conversations is such a win. And it took a long time to do, you know, like those 4 years of vlogging is not a waste of a 4 year of vlogging. That's like, you had to get through those to then realize like, oh, the main thing that I care about is conversation. But like, once you realize that, like that, I honestly went through the same, I was just talking about this earlier today. I went through the same kind of thoughts in my head of like, oh, because I like making content, I must be a filmmaker, or like I must learn how to do that, or like be technically like sound and like super, like make super pretty things. And I feel like there's almost like, I don't know if ego is the right word, but like it's almost this like identity.
Yeah,
it really is, where it's like you have like, because you identify with it, like I don't know, but at the end of the day, I like, for me it's not conversations, but it's more like ideas or like concepts, or I don't really know. But when you strip it down to like what I really enjoy doing, it's like sharing ideas and thoughts.
I do think though that you're right. I think it is a little bit of a pride thing. It's like, as you think about, I think there's two things that go into it. Is one, like who you watch, Like, and it's funny because as I become a member of like the Creator Camp community, Creator Camp makes slow, cinematic storytelling vlogs. That's how I describe it. Slow, very deep cinematic storytelling vlogs. And I became a really big fan. It's almost like sometimes when I'm in that community, I'm like, should I not be watching Mr. Beast and Eric videos? But I like those videos.
Yeah.
But I also like these videos. And then it's like, okay. And then when I watch a Mr. Beast or Eric video, then it's like, okay, do I emulate this? But I hate that style of editing. I hate creating it. But I enjoy watching it. I'm really not as cinematic as the people in Creator Camp. And I'm not like, but it's like you smuggle in these like passions or these identities that you feel you need to. And I guess it like, which to me, as I'm realizing it, as I'm speaking it, I feel like the solution is many times in life is just being more comfortable, like being yourself, just like who you are, and having confidence that if someone likes you for your personality in real life, then that is probably the best indicator that people online will like you for the same reasons. And even like with Soul Wealth, I'm so passionate about changing the way people measure success, not being like, this is my worth because of my followers, or this is my worth because of the money I make, or I'm so passionate about that concept. But even with that, it's like, okay, well now do every podcast I have to sit down, do I have to like have some deep revelation about, and I know you saw my story the other day and go tying it all the way back to Arlin and stuff. It's like Arlin, I really like respect him as a personal brander and his creative mind. And the thing is, on his story, half the time he's providing really crazy value about personal branding and he'll talk about anything. He'll talk about religion. He'll talk about personal branding. And then the other half of the time, he's like, I'm sexy. Wake up, be sexy. Olivia Rodrigo, travel. And it's like, when you truly know someone, you have inside jokes. You have these silly things you do with them and you say with them. But then it's like, oh, should I not include those things on my story because I'm Soul Wealth guy now? Or I'm the creator advice person? And it's like, so the other day, which I'm referring to, is like my friends telling me about how every human face looks like a one of 7 animals.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm talking to a lot of people about this, but it feels like something I wouldn't put online. But like, why?
Why not?
Why not? Because if I like it and all the people I'm talking to like it, then people online will probably like it.
Yeah.
And they did. Everyone slid up and they're like asking about it. And that's why I'm realizing it's like, I feel like that way you create like, going back to the very first question, how do you create followers that care about you? Is like the same way you create friends that care about you. You be
you have
yourself.
To care about them.
You care about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just like, I feel bad because I'm like so just ranting this podcast, but it's interesting because one thing I always tell people is if you have like a mission or a brand statement and you can't explain it to a friend in person, like you're sitting down willing to let me explain this to you, then how would I ever get people online to rally behind it? And that's why I say the Soul Wealth thing over and over and over again, is because I need to be able to explain it to you. Because if I can't explain it to you, then how am I going to get people on the internet who know nothing about me to care about it? Yeah, sorry, that was so much.
No, I resonate with so much of what you just said. Like, with the, like getting people to care about you thing. Like, I realize like you have to hold space for your audience as like an additional relationship in your mind. Like, for just as an example, like I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is kind of like my creator account, and one is like personal, private, and just like like the account I've had for years. And I almost like the same way that some people go about their private Instagram account with just all of their friends from school or hometown friends following it. They will like post stories to update people on their life, like, oh, look where I went to this concert, or like, happy birthday, best friend. Like they post things to like update people on their life and stuff. Like they are creating a picture in their head of like who they're talking to, right? Maybe they're talking to like maybe they post the story so that a specific someone will see it, right? Maybe they're posting it to update their friends and family from home about their life or something. Like they all have a mental picture of who that is. And as a creator, it's really hard to come up with that, especially when you don't like know your audience personally.
Yeah.
But creating that picture of who they are, and you don't have to define it. You don't have to draw pictures, literally. You don't have to like write down characteristics of your ideal audience or whatever. But at least having a picture in your head of like, these are the people that watch me and resonate with me, and holding space for them as a part of your life.
Yeah.
I feel like that is, in my way, for the method of becoming the niche and like building like a truly authentic community. I think it's really important to like do things like being compelled to share about some random like theory you have about animal faces. Like that's something that like people that like truly cared would appreciate.
You know, as I was thinking about this, Instagram is the holy grail idea. I was trying to think about like, what do all Instagrams offer?
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 things that came to mind, which is that all Instagrams, first off, tell you what this person looks like. Obviously, there's like a couple exceptions, like art accounts that have no faces. But for the general, I'm talking about general public personal branding. What do all Instagrams offer? They tell you what they look like, generally tell you where they've been to, where they travel to, and then a brief description of their job. That's what I realized when I looked at, and I'm not looking at other creators. I'm looking at just people's Instagram. And I was like, but even is the case with many, many creators too, is that they gain a following because they make good content, but maybe their content is all about cars. And so it's like, I go on their Instagram, well, I know what they look like, I know where they've been to, and I know they make content about cars. And as I look at someone like you or Arlin, I'm like, dude, these, I think that the Instagram story is the most valued part of the app, because you'll never go to someone and hear, what's your Instagram story strategy? You'll never hear it. But Instagram story is almost always on the platform of Instagram where you actually get to know someone. It's how do they think? What are their opinions on things? What are their, and so I just started doing like my own anecdotal research, and I was just like, and it's funny, I'm in the process of like developing a whole Instagram personal branding thing, but I was like, let me just do a month of just talking about stuff on my Instagram story. And I have a really small audience. Like I literally could just be some kid you pulled out of college as far as like my following on Instagram. And the more I share my opinions, the more I like try to treat my followers like friends and just say stuff I would say in conversation and not be worried about talking about controversial things, the more likes I'm getting, the more engagement I'm getting, the more random DMs I'm getting, the more, and I'm like, dude, this is literally like, it's anecdotal research. Like I can see it coming into fruition, which was, I don't know, that's just been a wild realization, is that like all you have to stand out on Instagram, all you have to do is just like share your opinions, because almost no one is like really willing to share their opinions.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the first things I like learned, was that Instagram stories is the like most valuable tool for especially I learned this in the entrepreneur space specifically, of like coaching and things like that, but I think in general, like personal branding, if you're a creator, Instagram stories is the most valuable tool, because of all of the platforms you're on, Instagram is the one that has your most curated audience of people that actually like would recognize your name or know who you are to a degree, right? Because like you could follow someone on TikTok and have no memory of their name or their face or whatever, even on YouTube. But on Instagram, there tends to be like an easier, like, you tend to recognize the people you follow a bit more. Or at least for me, I like tend, even if I don't know them in real life, I like build a picture, or like I can remember their profile photo or something. Of all of those followers though on your Instagram, your story viewers are the ones that actually pay attention to you, right? Because like, sure, you don't click on every single story that you watch, but Instagram feeds you the stories of the people that you care about. So the people watching those are the people that truly care about you the most, or like are following along your journey the most, and keeping updated with them is the most important part of keeping your community alive. And like I find the same with like, it's like sharing opinions, but also like stories of what you're up to. Like you can almost take advantage. Like let's think about like any kind of content that someone makes. Like let's go to the car example, right? Like you can make a educational video about cars. All that gets a viewer is like they get educated about a certain car or something, right? They're not really appreciating that person or like remembering the person delivering it unless they deliver it a specific way. They're just learning about the car. But like if that person can tell a story really is like the key. Like a story about like even just how they ended up getting access to that car or like they were so nervous before they filmed, or like, oh my gosh, this edit like took me however long because it all deleted. Some random story like that, and you like inject that into your like Instagram story, and like people read it, like that humanizes you so much. Like there's so many. I find that like whenever people in real life that follow me on Instagram, like we like meet, like even right now, right? Like we've been mutuals on Instagram. I mean, we met, but like we've been mutuals on Instagram for 6-7 months. Anything I know about what you're up to, like all of the podcast episodes you've released, everyone you've spoken to, the deer thing, all of that, like I know it from your story. Yeah.
You said a couple of things that really stood out, and I forgot about this, was one that Instagram recommends you the stories of people you want to see. So you follow like whatever 500 people, and you think some girl's attractive, so you're always looking at her story, and you think some guy gives good business knowledge, so you're always, and then every time you open the app, they're the first ones there. Yeah. So the other thing that I was thinking about with this is that when you talk about any sort of other content creation, it's like, and I know you have your own opinion on the hook, but just for the sake of this, it's like, how do I hook the audience? How are the first minute of my YouTube video and the first 3 seconds of my TikTok video and the first, bro, with Instagram story, you never think about that. And you just know that the people you see on my Instagram, I be dropping like essays like for people to read. And I don't think everyone reads them, but there's no thought of how do I retain people on my Instagram story. It's almost just like a free, like a give me. It's like people, it's just, I don't know why. If I post a 10-second video like this to my Instagram Reels, it could do well. But if I post a 10-second video like this to my story, it won't go viral, but everyone who will watch it. Yeah. Yeah, and actually this brings up something that I hear a lot too with people that are nervous to become creators. Yeah. Especially like aspiring like short form creators or even like YouTube. But like they're like, I get so nervous talking to TikTok. Like I get so nervous talking directly to the camera. But I can rant on my Instagram story, or I can rant on my close friends or Snapchat private story so easily. And I'm like, what's the difference? The difference is that there are guaranteed people watching that want to watch, that chose to watch, that know who you are in real life. So you're talking, it's again, that relationship that you have with your audience. There are people there to watch. Whereas on TikTok, you're fully putting it out there for like no one to see potentially. And there's like an embarrassment towards that. So the way that you just like described Instagram stories to me made me think like about like how it's free. Yeah. It's like, it's almost like you get to send a text message into a group chat full of your biggest like supporters and friends and fans and whatever who actually want to be there. And that's what Instagram stories gives you. Where like everywhere else, it's like you kind of have to like take your chances. Yeah, the algorithm. There's like so much stuff. I low-key want to talk about the whole like channel thing that's going on Instagram, but I also feel like that's like a tangent. The channel, like the broadcast? Like the broadcasting where you literally start a group chat. Yeah. That's like I think that's an interesting concept. I've joined a couple. I haven't made my own. Yeah, I joined a couple too, and I've joined a couple. The thing is, I don't like the notifications because it looks like I'm getting a DM and then it's like a broadcast channel thing. So I feel like my best opinion is that it's Instagram trying to compete with like Discord or I think it allows for a lot of community building and monetization opportunities, and like it's just another like one of the most valuable things any kind of creator or brand can have is like owning their audience of some sort. So like having email addresses, Yeah, that's what it's literally like an email newsletter. Because, and I almost feel like that's the best way to utilize, which I don't know because I haven't studied that part, but it's like, I almost feel like that's the best way to utilize it, because if you're just spamming it, you're pretty much just instantly going to lose my attention. But if it's just like, guys, I dropped this, or I was thinking even about like Danny Miranda, how he talks about Twitter being his best podcast platform, is he's able to get guests, like big podcast guests, because he has a following on Twitter, and he'll like rally his Twitter army to like kind of tag someone. And I was thinking about like, what would that look like on Instagram? Because I was like, what would happen if I had a small following on Instagram and I was like, hey, everyone, go like spam the comments of this person, or go like, would that be rude? Would that work? Would that be, and I don't know. That's something like I think, like in terms of getting a podcast guest or even collaborating with other people, there's like 3 ways, which is like, the best way, in my opinion, is warm outreach. Warm outreach means that we already have some sort of connection. It's like, if I'm going to you to get a podcast with Mino, I'm like, I know you're friends with Mino. I might want to interview him. So I'm like, here, that's like a warm outreach. And then there's cold email, cold DM, send someone an email, you send someone a DM. And then there's this thing I've been thinking about a lot, which is like public. The public is like, all right, I'm calling you out publicly on my Twitter, or I'm going to call you out publicly on my LinkedIn. That's what Chris Duncan did for Chris Waite to get a tour on Jeremy Zucker. He went on LinkedIn, tagged Jeremy Zucker's tour manager, and was like, hey, I'd like to pitch this guy as a, and then everyone was like, he's a great photographer, he's a great photographer.
Oh, really?
He ended up on tour with Jeremy Zucker. So that like idea of like the public shout out is something I've been just thinking about. I'm like, it's interesting. Because it also feels like it could be rude. Like, what are you doing? Just shouting. I don't know.
I feel like if you do it well, like it can work. It can.
I mean, I've seen it work. Okay, there is something that's super important to me though that we need to discuss, because also been on my mind. I'm gonna wait to share my opinion and just ask you, what are your general thoughts on screen time and stigma around screen time?
Stigma. Can you describe, like, elaborate on, like, what do you mean by the stigma? Like having a high screen time?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really have any strong opinions. I feel like my screen time is pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like, well, I guess any addicted person would say that. I don't think it's an addiction. Like, I'm not like scrolling TikTok or Instagram for hours on end every day just to be entertained. I think I like, for the most part, use my phone pretty like functionally, like communication, or for me, like posting on TikTok or something. But all I know is that it is scary, like the amount of time, if you add up like computer screen time and phone screen time, like, it is just a little scary how much time I do spend looking at the screen.
I guess the reason I bring it up is because I used to keep like a little widget on my phone that showed my screen time.
Oh my God. I have it projected huge. Like every time I open my phone, I know what it is.
And I used to like try to get like, I don't know, I would try to like get really, really like low screen times, because I was like, it made me feel better about my productivity. And I began to associate, as I feel many people do, with low screen time with like being a more present, happy, less anxious person. And I even just watched a TED Talk that was talking about, dude, it was like a scary graphic. I posted it to my story. You might have saw it, where it was like, you spend this many hours in school, you spend this many hours sleeping, you spend this many hours eating, and then it was like, this is your free time in life. And then it overlaid the graphic with like, this is how much of your free time is screen time. And it was like 90% of your free time. And it was like, it was very daunting. But I guess the reason I bring it up is because I feel like it's like screen time has become almost this enemy of people who want to like be present. And recently I've had like a revelation, which is that as we said with our followers, like not all followers are created equally. Not all screen time is created equally. And it's like, there was a time where screen time really did make me more anxious, and it really did, like I felt like affect me. And it's because my screen time was it was primarily consumption. So it's like consuming a lot more than creating. 2, it was purposeless. It's how can I see what's going on in other people's lives? But I don't really care. This is just what I've been trained to do. Like go on Instagram, see and then just like just purely for entertainment. I don't think any of those things are inherently wrong, but now my screen time, so I went on like a bender of like low screen time. And then I started learning all this stuff about personal branding. And I was like, well, I can't like utilize personal branding if I'm not having a higher screen time. But the way I approached Instagram was now different. Now a majority of my screen time comes from talking on this story. It comes from analyzing and like having takeaways from other people's content. It comes from researching podcasts. It's like my screen time's higher than it's ever been, but I feel that I have the best relationship with my phone and social media that I've ever had. And I guess it's because it's like my screen time supports my mission. And it's funny because when I look at I never once thought about computer screen time, because for me, computer screen time was work. That's something I feel good about. It's my work. But iPhone screen time was always waste of time.
Yeah, interesting.
And now I'm like having to retrain myself and be like, I'm a creator.
Yeah.
It is okay for me to call my phone time my work time, but you have to be really disciplined to actually like do that and mean it. And that's just, I guess that's what I wanted your opinion on, because it is it's a very taboo thing.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it can be easy to just say like all screen time is bad, but I think you're right. It is not created equal, and like using it intentionally. I think the reason why I don't have too bad of a relationship with it is because I did a lot of my work on my phone. Yeah. Right. Like I do consider my TikTok and stuff like that. I don't consider it now as like full on just work, but I do consider it productive. So yeah, I'd say like it's not, I don't know. It's more like what you're using that screen time for. Well, to me, you could almost compare it to AI, which is like everyone wants to talk about, is AI good or bad, or is it more good or more bad? And there's certainly some really scary aspects of AI. But my opinion, as with everything else, is that it's a tool, and you can use a tool to, if I have a hammer, I can use a hammer to build a house, or I can hit my neighbor with it. It's like, what are you gonna do? And that's like, I really feel the same way about Instagram and TikTok. I literally, since TikTok has been downloaded, I've probably posted over, I don't know, like 300 TikTok videos through different accounts. My daily like scroll time on TikTok, non-existent. I never scroll TikTok. I don't care about it at all. And so that's like a good indicator to me that it's like the reason I'm spending so much time on Instagram is because that's where like I can create the best. Whereas like I used to be on Snapchat because it was like the thing in high school. I don't ever go on Snapchat. I don't ever go on TikTok. And it's, I also heard someone once say like, you are happier when you create more than you consume. And I started thinking about that quote after, and I literally like, I do like a daily guided journal, and the days where like I create more than I consume. And I don't know if there's like, it's not that day I spent 2 hours creating and I spent 1 hour on my phone. It's not like that. It's just like when your intentions are to create more than your intentions are to consume, I feel so much, just so much happier. Yeah, I relate to that. Since we are on a time crunch, and sorry, dude, I must apologize to you because I just ranted this whole episode. No, all of your thoughts are really interesting. Like, yeah, these are all things that I've like kind of thought about, but haven't like. That's good. I mean, if you're saying they're interesting, then hopefully they're valuable in some way. And it is interesting too. Like going back to like, I feel like I have to be the sole wealth person, but it's totally fine to have an entire episode about personal brand. Yeah, breaking the mold. Yeah, I just think it's like, I just want to be like me, and if I find something interesting, then I'll share it. But that message is always there, and
just to elaborate on that message, I always ask the same outro question, which is so wildly different from the rest of this podcast, but it's created from the perspective of your deathbed, because I think that's a good way to get people to think about soul wealth, which is when you die, what do you want people to say about you?
Like what they would say, what
they'd say. And a lot of people answer this question as what I will be remembered for. Okay. And I don't correct them, but there is a reason that I think it's easier to be like, I don't know. I think it's really easy to say, not easy, but when you talk about what you want to be remembered for, it doesn't take as much thought as like, what are people around me going to be like discussing about me, which is interesting. And the reason I like came to that was because I was such a workaholic, and there was a point in my life where I was like, dude, if I died, people are just going to remember me as like always working and not spending quality time. And I was like, that's so bad. Yeah. That's why I wrote it. But yeah.
Huh. Okay. So far what I've got is like, she lived true to herself. Like, so it's like, yeah, I feel like I would want that to show, right? Like first of all, the people around me to speak, like to have, like I do also care about like the quality of the people around me being people that would accept that, of like me kind of being like just like authentic and true to myself, and like hopefully they would find like hopefully I will have made an impact, like a positive impact on each of those people. But yeah, I guess that's
a good answer. There's a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying that was written by this girl who worked in hospice or something. And I think like the 4th most common regret of the dying was people said they wish they'd lived more true to themselves.
Really?
So it's a good answer.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Hugs.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Can you sit right here and do a couple thumbnail faces?
Sure. What do I do?
Just do like 2 or 3 different poses. Yeah, great. All right, now I'll do mine.
Like.
All right.
Perfect.
Oh, security.